Good morning. We're on chapter 13 of The Treasure Hunt by Pennington, a Willow Valley Kids mystery. And we will read 13 and 14. It was Michael's idea to start with, but like a spark setting fire to dry kindling, the enthusiasm of the group nearly erased any memory of how it began. The 5 children were suffering through an indoor recess at school as cold rain spattered the windows of the school cafeteria. After a dull game of hangman, they began to talk about the treasure hidden in Willow Valley. "I just don't know what we should do next," said Emily, tapping her pencil on the table. "Sometimes I think if it were really there, someone would have already found it." "And we're just kids," added Heidi. "No one would really expect us to find it. Stuff like that only happens in books." "You're wrong," said Terence. "I read a news article yesterday about a boy in Africa who built a whole radio station out of spare parts." "You could totally do that, Buddy," said Michael. Buddy grinned. "I've built a couple radios, but no radio stations yet." Terence tipped his head sideways and pushed up his glasses. "So are you saying we should give up, Emily?" he asked. "I don't know," said Emily. "Maybe the weather just has me down." Michael flicked a paper football across the table toward Buddy's field goal fingers. "We should not give up, not until we've tried everything," he said. And that's when he thought up the idea. "We should go down into Willow Valley at night and see what it's like in the dark," he said. "Maybe that will give us new ideas about where the treasure is hidden." At first no one said a word. Heidi's eyes grew big at the thought. Emily's pencil stopped tapping and then began again, double time, as she considered the idea. Go into Willow Valley at night? In the dark? In cold winter time? "Whoa," breathed Buddy as the idea began to sink in. Emily leaned forward in her seat, her eyes shining with the adventure of it. "Do you think we could really do that? I've gone in my backyard at night, but never down into the valley, except the time we hunted fireflies last summer, but then we only went part way down the path." Her rainy day blues had disappeared. "We can build a fire," Terence said, rubbing his hands together, "and if we went down before dark, we could gather wood and set things up, just like we were camping." "I'll bring my bow and arrows," said Buddy. "There might be night creatures, wolves or bears, and who knows what else." "Heidi, you and I can set up your tent," added Emily. But it was Heidi who brought them back to reality. "I'm not so sure my parents will go for that idea," she said. "I mean, the 5 of us kids out in the woods at night." For a moment their brainstorming came to a halt, but then their excitement propelled it forward once more. This idea was just too good to walk away from. "My dad would probably come with us," Michael said. "He loves camping when it's cold, and he makes the best chili over a fire." Emily pulled out a piece of paper. "We should make a list of what we'll need to bring." "Flashlights for sure," said Heidi. "I'm building a super bright flashlight," Buddy told them. "It will light up the whole valley." "Oh, my dad has the absolute brightest flashlight," Terence chimed in. "He got it for his hunting trips. I'm pretty sure he'll want to come too. He was just saying the other day that he wanted to do something with me." "So we have a tent, chairs, food, and flashlights," said Heidi, leaning over to read the list. "What else?" Emily hunched down and spoke in a low voice. "Scary stories." "Ah," cried Heidi. "Please, no, I hate ghost stories." "I'm just kidding," Emily laughed. "But seriously, if my dad comes, he's great at telling stories, and he has a book of letters written by Revolutionary War soldiers. He'd probably love to read some to us." "That's perfect," said Michael. That will really help us get into the spirit of things. So, when are we going to do this?" "Not tonight," Terence declared, glancing at the window where rain continued to beat against the glass. "We'll plan for next Friday night then," said Emily. "That gives us a whole week to get ready." Just then the bell rang loudly, bringing their free time to a quick end. "Everyone ask your parents tonight and call me if you can't come," Emily told the others as they gathered their things and headed towards the classrooms. Buddy was last to leave the lunchroom. Emily's words echoed in his head. "Everyone ask your parents." Buddy sighed. Most of the time he didn't even think about the fact that he didn't have a dad. But sometimes it came without warning, like a punch in the stomach. Hearing the other kids talk so much about their fathers made Buddy wonder if he really did fit in with the Willow Valley Kids after all. Everyone but Buddy had gone to church together for years and knew lots of stories from the Bible. They had regular church kind of families whereas Buddy's mother had never come to church with him. The more Buddy thought about it, the more he realized how different his life was that of his friends. He slouched sideways in his desk and leaned his cheek on his fist. Somehow the idea of a nighttime party in Willow Valley didn't sound like fun anymore. Chapter 14. The following Sunday, Buddy did not go to church. "Thanks anyway," he told Terence that morning when Terence called to see if he was ready to be picked up. "What's the matter? Are you sick?" asked Terence. Buddy paused, trying to think of an answer that would keep Terence from asking any more questions. "My mom's off work," he finally said. "It just doesn't work out today. Thanks, though." Buddy hoped that didn't count for a lie. It wasn't that he felt angry towards God or anything. He just didn't feel like being the oddball in Sunday school, seeing all the other kids with their families. At church, Terence told the others that Buddy seemed different when he talked to him on the phone. "What do you mean by different?" asked Emily. "Different could mean anything." "I can't really say exactly," answered Terence slowly. "He just seems sort of closed up. Not his normal gregarious self." "Gregarious?" repeated Michael. "Translation, please." "Friendly and outgoing," Terence replied. "Likes to be around others. Don't you ever read the dictionary?" Dry weather returned by Monday, and Terence called a club meeting after school. The children met in their usual place under the willows in Willow Valley. The trees had dropped most of their leaves, allowing the pale winter sunlight to reach the floor of the valley, warming the club members where they sat. Emily and Heidi on a fallen log, Michael leaning against a willow branch, and Buddy squatting near the edge of the pond, poking at the mud with a stick. "This meeting is called to order," declared Terence, rapping his pen on the rock with the carved arrow. He sat on a three-legged folding camp stool he had carried down from his house. "Everyone present and accounted for, sir," said Michael, saluting. "What's on the agenda?" Emily asked. She knew exactly why they were meeting, but it felt important to say the word agenda. "First of all," began Terence, "did everyone get permission from their parents to come to our campfire on Friday night?" "I can come," said Emily. "My dad is coming too, with the book I told you about. My mother said she also might come down for a while, which means my older sister probably will too." "My mother wants to come too," Heidi exclaimed. "Both my parents thought it was a great idea." "Good," said Terence. "What about you, Michael?" "Yep, we're coming," Michael told him. "Last night Dad pulled out his chili recipe and gave Mom a shopping list. Then he dug around in the garage until he found a camping pot. He might be more excited than we are." "Buddy?" asked Terence. Buddy continued poking the stick into the mud. "I'm not sure," he answered. I forgot to ask my mom." "You forgot?" said Heidi. "I'll talk to her tonight. I'm pretty sure she won't want to come. She's usually pretty tired after work." "But you're coming, right?" said Emily. Buddy shrugged. "I haven't decided yet." Michael and Terence exchanged looks. "But Buddy," said Michael, "what about that flashlight you're building, the super bright one?" Buddy stood up and tossed the stick into the pond. "Oh, that," he said flatly. "Didn't you hear Terence the other day? He said his dad has the absolute brightest flashlight." "But you can still bring yours," said Terence. Buddy shrugged. "I'll let you know later, after I've talked to my mom," he said. As soon as Terence ended the official club meeting, Buddy went home. "What's the matter with him?" asked Heidi as soon as he was gone. "It seemed like he didn't even want to be with us." "I'm not sure," answered Michael, looking perplexed. "Did we say something wrong?" Terence stuck his pen behind his ear. "If we did, we said it at school Friday, because that's when he started acting this way." "And he didn't come to church," added Emily. The four of them sat quietly, searching their memories to try and figure out what in the world had gone wrong. Above them, a small flock of red and brown cardinals peeped shrilly and fluttered from branch to branch. "I think I can make a guess," said Emily finally. "All of us have been talking about our dads. Buddy doesn't have a dad." Michael nodded. "And all our parents know each other from church, but Buddy's mom doesn't come to church. I can see how that would make Buddy feel bad." "But what are we supposed to do about it?" asked Heidi. "That's just the way things are." "Maybe we shouldn't talk about our families to Buddy," Terence suggested. He hardly ever talks about his mom to us." Emily frowned. But what about campfire Friday night? Most of our families are coming. Do we just leave Buddy out?" "That doesn't sound right," said Michael, shaking his head, "but we can't force Buddy to come either." Emily stood up and pulled her knitted cap down lower over her ears. "This is too complicated, and it's time for me to go home." "Maybe you should ask your dad about this," Terence said to Michael. The others agreed. "I'll let you know what he says," promised Michael, as they all headed toward their houses.